Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. We're going over the school absenteeism report form. Today I am joined by Emily Poland, the school nurse consultant for the Maine Department of Education, as well as Mike McCrick, who is a help desk analyst, who will be presenting today. With that being said, I'll pass it over to Mike.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm just going to start us off here at the DOE website. I'm going to show you all where the detailed instructions to the report is. So if you come to maine.gov/DOE, you'll get to our homepage here. And up under data and reporting, you can go down to help desk. And that will get you over to our website. Down here, just scroll down a little bit, and you'll have the data reporting instructions tile. And coming in here, this is where we'll post the instructions to any of the reports that we do, but you will also have somewhere in here, right at the top, school absenteeism reporting instructions. So this will get you a Word document, give you a detailed walkthrough of pretty much what I'm going to be showing you here, how to get to the report. It has a lot of good information about filling it out and that sort of thing. So definitely recommend you grab that. But that being said, we can hop right into Neo here and we'll take a look at it, show you guys how to get to it. One good thing to know, if you do not already have an existing Neo account, you are going to need your superintendent to fill out the access request form that's actually found on our help desk page here. I'll go back just a second. The superintendent will just use this form here towards the bottom, access request form, and then they can request you an account. That will email myself and Drew. We'll get that after about 10 minutes, and then depending on how busy, we'll get your account created, and we'll email you both back, letting you know what your how to log in. And then once you have that, then you'll be able to log into Neo. And upon logging in, you'll have a lot less options up top and in the middle, but essentially you're going to just go to student data. So you can either use the link up top or go to student data home down here. Either one. And then depending on your level of access, but if you're a nurse and doing this report, you'll have the student health tab up here. And coming into student health, this kind of just gives you the rundown and the basics of the reporting, a bunch of contact information. And a couple of things to note, if depending on if you guys have already submitted a report this year, it'll behave a little bit differently, where if you have not submitted a report, you'll have this link that says create a new high absenteeism report, and you'll want to use this link here to create your very first one. Once you have created the report, then you can use this click here to display school summary. And that will bring you to a list of all the actual schools. Perhaps you've been given access to multiple districts or you work for multiple districts, so you'll be able to see your entire list here. But if you need to create additional reports, you'll have a create link under this navigation tool. So it's just kind of depending on where you're at, on how many reports you've made. But if you're doing your first one, you'd use the one out front. And then otherwise, you'll use this create new report link up top here. But that will get you into creating your report. And first thing, just run through it real quick. It's pretty self-explanatory, but you'll pick the date that you're doing the report for. So for instance, we'll choose today. And then you will pick the school that you're filling the report out for. With the Maine Department of Education that I'm using here, we only have one school, but you may have multiple. And what that'll do is as soon as you choose it, it's going to automatically populate the address, physical address, and then as well, it's going to pull in your student and staff counts that are current as of the report date that you choose. So this comes automatically right from Neo based on your Synergy enrollments. So however many active students you have in Synergy for the day of the report, that'll load into Neo, automatically fill it out. We don't have any students enrolled at the MDOE school, so that just comes in as 0. But we do have a staff, Mr. Ryan Cunningham there, who also automatically fills in as the nurse. That information is going to be pulled from NEO's staff and your district role on the staff certification page. So whoever is designated as that nurse on that page will be who gets filled in on that box, just as a heads up. But then you'll essentially just punch in your numbers of how many absent students and staff you have, and then you'll pick the reasons, any and all that apply. Noting that when you choose respiratory symptoms, we now have options that will display influenza-like illness, COVID-19, and other respiratory illness. So when reporting those, feel free to check those boxes. And then we have the COVID-19 question, if anyone had tested positive, if yes, how many? And then you'll put in any notes you might need to. Once you have all of that information in, you can hit submit. Make sure when you are submitting these that it is accurate, because it will automatically do the 15% calculation right here in the form. If it meets that threshold, then this report gets sent immediately to the Maine CDC, and there is no retracting it through NEO. If you do need to do that, you will need to contact them directly, and that information is in the instructions that I linked previously up on the help desk page. So be very certain of your information before you hit that submit button. But that is it in a nutshell. I think I will pass it over to Emily to go into some more detail with everybody.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I just want to talk about why, why we would fill out this form. How long has this form been used? So first of all, schools have had to report high absenteeism, that 15% mark, for a long time. That is the threshold that is defined in the notifiable diseases rule from Maine CDC and DHHS. So 15% is just a marker as there's something going on at this school. It's a potential something significant is going on at this school. So with COVID-19, originally, you know that we have to report every single case because that is a notifiable disease. However, the definition for an outbreak has been shifted to be more in line with all of the other diseases instead of its own standalone definition of an outbreak. So that's why you would need to submit this form. So once your school hits that 15% absent, and remember that the absenteeism, people are absent from school for lots of different reasons. This is only for those that are sick or have tested positive and are in isolation. So this should not include people that are told to quarantine and stay at home. It should not include people that are on vacation. It should not include people that choose to stay home out of fear because there's so much COVID going on. So it's really just about those who are ill. And I include those who tested positive because we know that there are asymptomatic people that test positive, so they still need to isolate. They're not technically sick because they're have no symptoms, but they still are absent due to COVID-19. So when you're keeping track of who's absent and why they're absent, this can be done in the office with some communication between the nurse's office and whoever keeps track of attendance in your school. But that is the basics for why and how. When you do submit this report, it goes to Maine CDC. If it hits 15%, it will trigger that notice to Maine CDC. At that point, an outbreak investigator will receive the information and reach out to the contact at school. They'll be asking you questions about how many people have tested positive. I know we have that in the question here, but they're going to want to know how many staff, how many students. Do you know what kind of tests they are? Do you know if they are PCR or antigen tests? Are they home tests? These are the kinds of questions they'll ask. But the outbreak does not depend on a certain number of test results. I hope that that's clear. Are you opening the?
Yeah, I was just gonna pull this up. A lot of feedback there. Yep, I was just gonna pull it up that way if you wanted to talk about the contact information in case folks wanted to grab that. I just wanted to pull it up for everybody. because I think it has it. Yes, at the bottom here.
Yes.
I'll blow this
Yep.
up so.
Yep, and there you go. So if there is, I would just ask if you have any comments, like if you have any specific information that you want to share that you want Maine CDC to know when you are submitting this report, just include that in your notes. And then after the fact, after you have submitted your report, if there's a change that you need to make, if there is something that comes up that you need to communicate with them, we would ask that you contact Maine CDC directly. You can reference the absenteeism report that you've already submitted. Just say, hey, we submitted a report for this school and I need to talk to somebody about that report. You'll use this email at disease.reporting@maine.gov. And that is really all I have. So I think that we can open it up for questions.
Yeah, we did get a couple. Getting a little more feedback there. I'll try to not talk so loud. So yeah, folks, if you'd like to ask us some questions, in your Teams application, you should have a little question bubble up towards the top of the screen. And you can click on that and it should pop open a window for you and you can type in your questions. You can set a name, you submit them anonymously, whatever you'd like. They won't be seen unless we publish them, so don't worry about that. But yeah, I'll read, I don't know if you can see them, Emily. I can read them out loud though, if we like.
Yeah, I can see them, but I think it would be helpful for those maybe watching the recording or that can't see the questions to read.
Sure. Okay, so yep, somebody just asked, so should it include students that are absent unexcused?
If you know that they are absent due to illness and it's still unexcused, I think that the unexcused absence, I believe, is defined at the local level. So I would say if it's due to illness, yes. If you don't know, I would include them in that number.
Makes sense. For that, and throw that one out there. The next one we had, so is there a key staff person you recommend submitting this information?
That's a really good question. When the form was designed, the intent was that nurses would do it. But in reality, with the current workload of COVID-19, it does not have to be a nurse. But I think somebody that knows this health information about who is sick and who's not is going to have to communicate with whoever submits the report. So although that might not always be the nurse in your school, it could be an administrative assistant that provides other reporting, provides other reports to the state.
Okay. And so I think that answered the second one. Okay. And so the next question that we had, so is this just a report going forward, or should we go back in time and report presumably one's days that they had previously had?
No, I would not go back in time. I would start this as of today. If you haven't already submitted a report this year, just start it going forward. That would be, I think it would just cause more confusion to both the people that receive the report and to you to try to go back in time.
I'm going to answer these as we go here.
Yep.
But yep. So the next one, pretty easy question. So are we submitting this daily or just once we're at the 15% absenteeism mark?
So that's a really good question. And when you hit 15%, you are going to report that. That triggers that CDC call. While you are in an outbreak status, they're going to ask you to report that every single day. So that's when you are in outbreak status. If you aren't told that you are in outbreak status, you would only report it when you hit that 15% mark. I hope that that's clear. So then I'm just going to follow up to the question I see afterwards. Is this supposed to be done daily? It's a similar question, or only if we're in outbreak status. So you won't be in outbreak status unless you have submitted this report. So unless you are at 15% absenteeism, your school will not be identified as being in an outbreak. And once you are in an outbreak status, you have to report every single day, school day, until the CDC tells you that you're no longer in an outbreak.
Okay, and then we had another follow-up. Yeah, just how often should it be submitted? We kind of covered that. You just report it once you hit that high mark, and then the CDC will have you keep reporting. So
Correct.
Right. So yeah, folks seem to. Right. Is that clear for everyone on that? I just see we had a couple more questions about when you should submit this, but I want to make sure that that's clear for everybody. But do it once you have that high absenteeism, and then you'll follow if you're an outbreak and keep going. Because we don't want to be inundating the CDC with folks submitting this every single day, and there are only 5% absenteeism that they don't need to per se be worried about. So
Correct. Yeah. So you don't, there's another question. You don't need to report it every day, just to clarify. It does get, once you hit the 15% is when you should submit the report. It would be extra work without any benefit to you if you were just reporting it and you were only at 5% absenteeism. We don't need to add extra work.
We did have another question. Which staff should have access to this form in NEO typically at each school? I think we kind of covered that a bit. You mentioned typically it was designed for nurses, but given their workload, feel free to divvy it out to whoever is going to be in good communication with them and going to be able to accurately fill out the form, I think is still the answer there, Josh. Let's see. We have a question. So there, it was just kind of asking, do we report those that are unknown? And they might need to clarify a little bit, but
I'm guessing that if you don't know why they're absent, if you have not been able to identify why they are absent, this is my guess on what you mean. But if you don't know the reason they're absent, then I would include them in the number. We don't want you to include those that you can take off the list because they're on vacation, they're in quarantine and they had to stay home for some reason. So don't include the ones that you know the reason they're absent and it's not because they have COVID or because they are sick. I'd like to address the question, is it 15% of staff and students combined or 15% of students and or 15% of staff? Now, maybe I should let you answer this first, Michael, and
yeah. So the form here that you guys will be filling out in NEO, it is actually going to be totaling your students and your staff when it goes to calculate that 15% mark. So, if you have 100, let's just make it easy. Let's say you've got 80 kids and 20 staff. And if you, between the two of those groups, have 15 or more people out, then it will send this to the CDC, given that 15% of the total has hit the mark. So, yeah.
So I guess my follow-up question to that would be, does it trigger the report going to CDC if 15% of your staff are absent, but not 15% of your students?
That's a good question. Let me look at the instructions. I thought we had something in there about that. Let's see if either. So it does say either. Okay, so yeah, so I think that might be an either or then if either of the boxes hits the total percent then. So okay.
Yeah, so I think that if any percentage is at 15%, then it will trigger that going to CDC.
Okay. Yeah, so in that example I just gave, that it would not trigger. So yeah, they would need, if you had 100 students, you need 15 absent for it to trigger. Or, yep. Good question. A quick one here. Our CTE school is supposed to be doing this as well. So career technical centers.
I would say yes.
Okay. And just going through some of the other ones here. So another one, so some folks, they have a PG program. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but which those numbers aren't included in what comes into NEO, but we have some of those students test positive. Do we include them in the number of positive tests? So this would, yeah, they essentially have students that are out that they don't necessarily report in Synergy. So
Okay. I think I would add that in the comments. I'm not sure what PG is either. Maybe it's postgraduate kids that come into the school, but if they aren't included in your attendance, I would add it into your comments.
okay, we're still getting a lot of questions. Does this need to be done daily? Does this need to be done daily? When do we need to start doing this? So if you want to reiterate that one more time, Emily, there's still a lot of.
So this reporting needs to be done every day that you hit 15% absent. It should be starting immediately. So if you have 15% of your students and or staff absent today, then you could log on and submit this report. It is done every day that you hit 15% absent until the CDC determines that you are an outbreak. When you are called an outbreak, when your school is in outbreak status, the CDC requests that you continue to report every single day until they tell you that you're no longer an outbreak. I believe that the way they are closing an outbreak is a certain number of days where your absenteeism has fallen back down below 15%. So even if you, during that outbreak period, you're going to be creating one of these reports every day.
I'm trying to keep up. We have a lot of questions, actually. There's 50 of them in here, so I'm going to try my best to kind of go through these. A lot of them are repeats, though. So
yeah. So I'm seeing one that says, to clarify, do we count people who are quarantining as close contacts? No, you do not count people that are out of school due to quarantine.
okay, here's a more nuanced question. So this person asks us, so we often have students dismissed during the school day for illness when their local system reports them as present for part of the day and then dismissed absent for the rest of the day. Should they be counting those students absent when they're doing determining the rates? Same for staff.
I think that's one of those local calls. You'll need to make a decision. Are we counting this person absent or not? I don't think it matters just for a one day, because you could also, if the following day you were high again, you would include that person because maybe they're absent that day. So I think that's a local judgment call.
Thank you.
I see the question about the nurses already being very stressed. How can we add this additional task to them? This can be shared, right? Please have someone else do it. They just need to be in communication. They would need to know the information that needs to be submitted. And this is information that I'm guessing most nurses or the health staff, whoever you have, knows this information. And this session is being recorded.
Yes, I'll say that real quick. For those of you that joined late, we are recording it. We're going to have it posted up on our help desk page here. And Emily will also be linking it over to her neck of the woods once we have it. But it will be just under the help desk on the Maine.gov site under webinars and presentations. So the school absenteeism will be there. Ryan usually can get those up there in a few days, if not by the end of the week, typically. Not to put a burden on you, Ryan, but yeah, he's usually pretty quick about them.
The question is, if we are at 15%, we are automatically considered an outbreak status. No, you are not automatically considered an outbreak status. When you are at 15%, that triggers an outbreak investigation from a CDC epidemiologist. They're going to contact the school and talk through some of what's going on in your school and determine if you do meet if you are an outbreak or not. It's just a triggering point.
Okay. Yep, and someone was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about the absenteeism reporting for other illnesses other than COVID, which which is typically what was done before COVID. So once again, this was something that you guys had access to report prior to COVID, but yep.
Yeah. So there are some diseases that if you had a case of a chickenpox, for example, in your school, you wouldn't wait for 15% of your kids to be absent due to chickenpox. That there's a resource that schools use, that school nurses use on notifiable diseases. So chickenpox is one of those things that you would have to notify the Maine CDC if you had a suspect case of chickenpox. That would be a phone call. That could be an email to the disease.reporting@Maine. I can't remember the email off the top of my head. Disease reporting email. Otherwise, so there are some diseases that you report individual suspect cases. However, the form is used, this 15% is used by CDC to determine what any type of outbreak. It could be, you could end up being an influenza outbreak, not a COVID outbreak, if you had a whole bunch of influenza-like illness without tests. So does that kind of cover what you are hoping in that question? Hoping to get.
Yeah, we'll see. They come back there. We'll kind of keep moving, but yeah, let us know if that's helpful there.
Yep.
Let's see. And so once again, we can kind of. It's really hard because I know a lot of these questions came in maybe 10 minutes ago, so I feel like they might have been addressed. There were some questions about once again about parents keeping their kids home due to a family member having tested positive and things like that. So
yeah, you could consider, right, and you wouldn't necessarily consider that out due to COVID, right? So they had a family member that tested positive. They're keeping their child home just to be safe. That would be considered a quarantine. So no, you would not include that person.
And if we could clarify just one more time on the 15% threshold for staff or student. So it is an either, but yep.
So when you enter in your absent numbers, it will ask for how many staff are absent and how many students are absent. It will individually calculate the percentage of those, and if either one is over 15%, it will trigger that email to Maine CDC. Hope that was clearer.
Right, so it's not a total, it's just an either or.
Do we have to wait until the CDC says we are in an outbreak status, or know that at 15% we keep reporting? You're going to keep reporting while you're at 15%. If you're 15% or more absent, continue to report every day. So we do our own math privately with absenteeism, and if we are at 15%, then we start the daily online reporting until we are no longer in outbreak status. That's basically it. I know that before COVID, would frequently, every year, I would calculate what is my magic number. So when do I start getting concerned about absenteeism? So if I had a school of 100 kids, I would start to get worried if I had 12 kids absent or 10 kids absent, because then I knew I was creeping up towards that 15%. So that would be a suggestion for moving forward, is having that magic number that for your school. The question about how they get access to a form if you're not identified as a school nurse in NEO. On the instruction form, there is a way to, you're going to contact the help desk. The superintendent will need to request access through the form on the help desk website.
Right, this button right here.
Who at the school will the CDC call? What phone number will they use? I expect they would use the number that is in the form itself. The CDC, depending on who it is, they may have a contact at the school already. We are getting to know each other very well. So, but they would contact, the default would be to contact whoever is on that form with the phone number, with that phone number.
Right, and that'll get pulled from their NEO staff assignment.
Correct. So our school went remote. Should we still submit if we believe we're around 15%? Yeah, absolutely. If you've gone remote because of what's going on in your area, then I would suggest still reporting it, even if you aren't physically in the building, because you're going to be back in the building soon. It's a question about whether or not bus drivers are included in the staff list. I would expect that bus drivers are included in the staff list if they are included in the staff that is reported to the state. Is that a correct assumption, Michael?
Could you repeat that one more time?
Are bus drivers included in the staff list?
Yes, because they will be, and you'll have NEO staff assignments for them. So yeah, they'll be included in your staff totals. Yeah, so here's another question. So they were just asking, should we count anyone with an illness? For example, even if we know a student has strep throat and the doctor doesn't think it's COVID, should we still count them in our numbers?
Yeah, if they're out due to illness, you would include them in this. And as you can see on the form, there are multiple symptoms that you can be checking off for the reasons that they're absent. It could be a GI illness. It could be fever, so there are multiple things there. And so yes, any illness or out due to COVID.
Right. So just, think of this. This isn't a COVID reporting form. This is we have 15% of our folks out form, and then due to illness, should say.
Yeah. And again, on who to include in that 15%. You include anyone who is out due to illness, any illness, or they are in isolation because of a positive COVID test. You would not include those who are in quarantine or those who are out for a reason other than illness, like they are on vacation. You would not include those absences in this number. once you are determined to be in an outbreak status, the CDC will you'll be in contact with the CDC just like you were before with a CDC outbreak investigator, and they will tell you when your outbreak is closed. So there's a comment and question about CTE programs. I did say that CTE programs should submit these reports. So the comment is this: you said that CTE programs should be submitting these reports. Wouldn't the student's primary school report this on the student? It seems this would be duplicating efforts. Remember, this form is about the school location with the 15% absenteeism in that school location. So you're not reporting on an individual student, you're reporting on the absenteeism that school is experiencing. So that school is experiencing. So a CTE program represents students from multiple places. It's going to be a more complicated outbreak investigation for sure, but it is reporting on the absenteeism for that facility.
We had another kind of follow-up question regarding bus drivers, which I think I can answer here. So they were just asking, when we're reporting on COVID numbers, we're asked to report on those associated with buildings or those who are across district operations. Bus drivers aren't associated with a specific building. How do you want this handled? So in regards to this form, your bus drivers are essentially counted at each school, because this form that we're filling out, right, as Emily just said, is per school building. So your bus drivers, they're just going to be factored in with your total staff numbers for whichever school you pick. So you're still basically, once again, you're still looking at this form we're just looking for once you hit that 15% threshold. So do count your bus drivers when you're looking at that for an individual school. And once again, you're only filling this out once you hit that mark or once you're required to do so. But yeah, don't overthink it too much. And real quick, someone has needed to know how to get to the health tab if you don't already have it. So once again, if you do not have a NEO account or you don't have the health tab in NEO, your superintendent needs to come to our help desk page, come towards the bottom and use this access request form here to fill out an access for you. That comes over to our help desk. We can create your account or add the access. We'll email you both back once that's been added, and then you'll be able to log into NEO and go to student data, student health up top.
So if we start reporting today, logically we won't get to this every day as we have multiple schools. Attendance may not be complete until the end of the day. Is the next day still acceptable, or can it only be submitted on the day? This report can be submitted when you submit a report, you have to indicate what day the report is for. So if you don't get to it until the next day, that's okay. Just write in the date, the report date, that you are indicating which date this report is for. So if you have to submit 3 reports in one day, and one is for the 11th, and one is for the 12th, and one is for the 13th, you would just submit 3 different reports with those dates indicated in the report date section.
And once again, to reiterate, you're not simply doing this report every day. You're only doing this report once you have the 15% threshold of folks out due to illness. Because that just seemed to be the flavor of the question, that they had to just do it every day. But
another question is this reporting requirement also required for private schools? It is required for a school, even a private school, to report outbreaks of notifiable diseases. Yes, it is not required that you use this form. You can email Maine CDC. This is just a way for this to be done easily for the schools and for the CDC. So yes, it is required for private schools to report the absenteeism, but it is not required to use this form. If you submitted a report last week and it's wrong, you can't edit the form. We don't have that capability, but you should email the disease reporting, disease.reporting@maine.gov, which is indicated at the bottom of the instruction sheet in the red. Thank you.
Yep. So the other question was, do we treat custodial and food service staff similar to bus drivers? So yes, folks are getting perhaps a little wrapped up with the staff reporting because these numbers, they just come straight from NEO, right? So you guys have a ton of district staff, you know, all of your central office admins, they're all reported at the district level as well. So when you're looking at reporting these numbers, as you see, we're not asking for individuals. They're not looking for specific people. At this point, you know, the CDC will get to that. But when you guys are looking to fill out this form, if you have food service staff or bus drivers or any of these contracted district positions, they're already automatically factored into your staff totals because they're in NEO. So when you choose a school in your dropdown, it already knows that they're for this district. Those people are already counted in your totals. So you don't really need to think about it. You just need to, if you have X number of people out, you just need to get them reported. So obviously the individuals that work in the schools, you can treat them at the schools, but any district positions, just kind of lump them in with that as well. And it's not double dipping. It's just, once again, it's just reporting out when there's a high number of people out due to illness. And someone asks, what happens if we opt out of completing this form?
I don't have an answer for that, Michael.
Yep, I do not either.
I would just like to mention too, with other diseases, you know, we know that there are other diseases other than COVID that we deal with on a regular basis. Please, you know, this is your absenteeism report, right? So if people are absent due to illness, people are absent due to COVID isolation, that's what you're going to use this form for. If you have an individual case of, I'm looking at the list here of reportable diseases, if you have a case of diphtheria, for example, or a case of hepatitis, the best thing for you to do is to call the CDC directly and report that on the phone, and not wait for 15% of your people to be absent with diphtheria or the plague, which is actually on the list of reportable diseases, by the way.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think the questions have slowed down, so that's a good sign. I think we reiterated the points, but yeah, if folks, if you have any other questions here, we've got a few more minutes. So.
All right. Any other questions then?
Oh, that is something that to note as well, Emily. With Microsoft Teams here, there is a bit of a delay with the questions coming through. So when they type them and us seeing them, yeah, it's about 5 to 10 minutes. So yeah, we want to just give them a little bit of a buffer.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, something not an issue with GoToWebinar or Zoom, but that was a fun one. Once again, just while we wait for those to come in, and for those of you, because I see we do have a lot more folks at this point than we did at the beginning, I'll show you where the instructions are again one more time. If you want the detailed list, just come to the maine.gov/DOE homepage. And then under data and reporting up top, you can come down to our help desk page. And that will get you to this screen that we were on a moment ago. And if you just scroll down, we have a data reporting instructions tile here. And clicking on that gets you the list of lots of various reports, but the school absenteeism reporting instructions is this top one. And that will get you this Word document that we were looking at very closely. But it kind of explains each of the boxes in some more detail. It has that CDC contact information at the bottom, and it also kind of just kind of goes through the steps for if you need to get access, how to get to our website, and the form and whatnot. So just wanted to point those out. And likewise, once again, this is being recorded, and the webinar will be available probably in another, probably by the end of the week. Once again, on our help desk page, just under the webinars and presentations tile, and we'll get it posted there. If you want to share it with any folks or review it, it'll get posted there. And I don't think we had any new questions come in.
No, I don't.
Yeah, there is the one question regarding the either or for students or staff. You might need to contact us perhaps at the help desk so we can look at that SOP that you're referring to, and we can kind of go over that. But as far as we understand the report, it is looking at the 15% either or, students or staff.
Yeah, and so the SOP, remember, it's referring to when the CDC is going to determine whether or not you're an outbreak. This form is just a way to communicate that to the CDC.
Right, that makes sense. Okay. I think we're all set, Ryan, unless you have anything you'd like to add.
I don't, other than just thanking everybody for joining us today. And if there's any questions that pertain to this webinar that people think of after the close of the webinar, they can address that with the help desk, and we'll add it to the Q&A document. I am going to try to expedite processing this and getting up, so I'm hoping by end of business tomorrow to have this posted under webinars and presentations, but that's if nothing comes and crashes into me between now and then. But yeah, I'll try to get that posted as soon as possible.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we'll close it out. Like I said, if you have any further questions, address them to the help desk, and we'll add them to that Q&A document. With that being said, thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.